Hello, this is saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is A Conversation in Jazz, where we are promoting jazz through telling the stories. Our guest today is the wonderful drummer, educator, and band leader, Mr. Lenny Robinson. We ask you to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so we can let you know when we are posting another video or going live. We also ask you to donate to our Cash App in order to support the channel and help us to produce future videos. Our Cash App is $Jazzology 101. That's $Jazzology 101. Enjoy the video. Hi, I'm saxophonist Antonio Parker, and this is A Conversation in Jazz. Our guest today is one of the veteran drummers on the jazz scene. He is an educator, producer, and band leader who has performed with the who's who of jazz, including Lou Donaldson, Stanley Turrentine, Marlena Shaw, Vanessa Rubin, Eartha Kitt, Ahmad Jamal, Terrence Blanchard, and Dewey Redman, to name a few. He is one of the most in-demand drummers in the Washington, D.C. area. He is also the co-producer of my very first CD entitled The Exchange, which was released in 2002. Please welcome my big brother, the wonderful drummer, Mr. Lenny Robinson.
What's up, Antonio? How you doing,
What's up,
man?
good brother?
I'm good, man.
Yeah, welcome to A Conversation in Jazz.
Thank you. I'm glad I could do this. I'm glad you called me,
man.
and I've been
Definitely.
looking forward to this opportunity for a minute.
Okay, yes sir, yes sir. Do you recall when we met? I don't know.
I don't recall exactly when we met or the first time we met.
Yeah, I remember I used to see you around. I used to, and hear you playing. But I remember the day I asked you to help me produce my first CD.
Uh-huh.
I think you were working at the Washington Music Center, Chuck Levins.
Okay, yeah.
And I was going to Chuck Levins for something, and I saw you, and we started chopping it up for a second. I said, man, I'm looking for somebody to help me produce a CD. Mm-hmm. And you said, I said, you know anybody? You said, yeah,
me.
I fell out laughing. I said, oh, okay. Up to that point, I only knew you as a drummer. So I said, okay. But man, you're the cat that I actually learned how to produce a recording. Mm-hmm. I just watched you and saw, and I learned while we were doing that project.
Yeah,
man, it was a great time.
That's a good record, man. I like that record.
Yeah. Well, it was inspired by I had did a tour to African men, Vince Evans, and so all the songs kind of had a jazz and world music kind of flavor.
Yeah.
And it was fun making that record, man.
It was.
And I actually was in the gym. I started back at the gym. I was in the gym about a week or so ago, and I was listening to it. After having not listened to it in years, man. And I said, man, we put our foot in this thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
And so,
something funny. I did a gig about a month ago at this place in Hyattsville, a little tiny place, and I came in, I set my drums up, and the owner of the place put on some music, and it was my record.
Wow.
I hadn't heard my record in.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know this record.
Wow.
And then I'm saying, wait a minute,
That's me.
this record kind of good.
Yeah. That's me.
It's a good record.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, man. So that brought back some good memories.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
And, so anyway, this is A Conversation in Jazz. Look how far we've come.
Right.
That was how many years ago? 2019. That was actually we started in the late 90s.
Yeah.
So it was a while ago. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, man, I'm sure many things have happened in your life since then.
Before then too.
Yeah, I'm sure. We're going to talk about some of that stuff. So, what I like to ask cats, because we learn in this setting, I call the story behind the story. Mm-hmm. So we want to know, how'd you get to where you are today?
Wow.
And so my first question is, who is Lenny Robinson?
Okay. Okay. I've heard you ask that question of other folks too.
Yeah.
Lenny Robinson is the son of Harvey and Kathy Robinson. My father was a Pentecostal minister, as was his father. And I grew up in a musical household. My mom sings. All of my sisters sing. My brother plays drums as well. I'm the oldest.
Wow.
And so music was always around, which was great. But it was only gospel music when I was coming up.
Gotcha.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we in my household, that's all you heard. You heard Mahalia Jackson and James Cleveland.
You done answered about three or four of my questions.
Yeah, right. But you ask who I am, and that really kind of shows or informs where I am today, because all of that, you know, that development kind of shaped me and molded me into who I am. So that's the first thing. I went to Morgan State.
Okay.
I grew up in Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
I you know, we talked about the fact that you know, the music in my household was only gospel music.
Yeah.
But me being the rebellious person that I am, I would sneak, you know, it'd be in the middle of the night, and I'd turn on the radio, because at that time, radio was much different than it is now. You could hear anything on the radio at that time.
Yeah.
All right. And one night I was listening to the radio, and it was late, and the jazz was on. You know, they always put jazz on late at night when ain't nobody up to listen to it, but except folks like me. And I heard a record. Let me back up for a minute. My first instrument was trumpet. I played trumpet from the fourth grade.
You answered all my questions.
My first instrument was trumpet. I played trumpet from the fourth grade, but only because my dad made me play the trumpet. I didn't really want to play the trumpet, but he made me play it, and I was okay. You know, I didn't really like practicing. But in the ninth grade, there was a guy at my in the ninth grade with me. His name was Billy Littman. Played drums. So I'm in there, I'm practicing my trumpet, trying to get all my stuff together, you know. And, you know, you start to get in the 9th or 10th grade, you know, you start to, girls. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm in there, I'm working on my trumpet thing, you know, and Billy Littman was playing the drums and getting all the girls. And I'm like, So I switched to drums.
Wow.
I still play trumpet. I mean, there's a picture in my yearbook of me playing the Haydn Concerto, you know, or trying to play the Haydn Concerto. But I switched to drums or added drums to my tool kit in the 9th grade. So I was kind of into drums. So when I heard this thing, you know, it's in the middle of the night. I got the radio kind of like my ear to the speaker, and I heard this thing. I couldn't figure out what it was. It turned out, and I didn't know it at the time, but it turned out it was a Max Roach Clifford Brown record. And I couldn't figure out what Max was doing.
Wow.
I mean, you know, at that point I was playing rock and roll and just like boom, boom, tap, boom, 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 tap, you know, that kind of stuff. And I couldn't figure out what Max was doing. And that's what got me on my journey.
Gotcha.
That's what got me on my journey of this music.
Let's back up some, because you done covered everything in that one answer. But that's good. So now, where were you born? That's what we're gonna get to. Now,
I know why you're asking that. All right, I was born in your hometown.
Come on, talk to me.
All right, I was born in Germantown,
in
PA,
Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia.
Wow.
Now I left. My folks. We moved to Baltimore when I was in the 3rd grade.
Okay.
All right, but I was born in Philly.
So you from Philly?
I'm from Philly.
My brother. Keith Kilgore calls it the city of brotherly shove.
Sometimes.
Wow. Do you still have family in Philly?
In Philly? Not in Philly. I have family in Norristown. My mom's family's from Norristown.
Wow.
At the time when I was born, my aunt was living in Philly, Jefferson and Lancaster, over near Overbrook.
What made y'all? You know why your parents moved to?
Because my dad got a church in Baltimore. My dad was transferred to a church in Baltimore.
So you a church boy?
I told you, man. He's
Wow.
a Pentecostal minister.
And his dad was as
And
well.
his dad was as well.
Why didn't you choose to become a minister?
Remember that rebellious thing I was talking about?
So, did you have strict parents?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't have a television until, I don't know, I was in the 7th or 8th grade.
Wow. Yes. Is there a different? Because I didn't come up with a minister. Parents, and after I was coming with a single mother. But
Right.
Is there a difference when you coming up as a kid of a minister?
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure it is. I mean, there's the idea that as the child of a minister, you're expected to carry yourself a certain way, so you don't bring any, embarrassment to,
no doubt.
To the pastor.
Yeah.
So there's that pressure. There's the fact that you couldn't do a lot of things that your peer, your peers were doing. I couldn't go to the movies.
Wow.
We didn't go to parties.
Really? Wow.
Oh. So yeah, it's different. But in some ways, I think that it shaped me as because of that, and it also, I think, kind of shielded me from a lot of craziness.
Yeah. So now you came up in Baltimore. Did you come up in the hood, or was it just?
It wasn't the hood.
Gotcha.
But it was a hood.
Gotcha. So what was Baltimore like when you were coming up?
It was a good place to grow up in some ways, and it was kind of a scary place to grow up in some other ways. All
Okay.
right. It was a good place to grow up in the way in from the aspect of everybody kind of was still looking for each other. The gang thing hadn't really come into play. I mean, there was gangs and there was some bullies and all that kind of stuff, but like the crack hadn't come and all that kind of stuff hadn't gotten there yet. So it was still even though there was like city life, it was a higher level of innocence, kind of.
Yeah.
It wasn't as crazy as it is now.
Yeah, I tell people we didn't come up. I mean, you didn't hear about cats getting shot.
No,
and all this kind of stuff.
When if there was a beef,
there
was a beef.
No doubt.
And whoever came out, all right, and then you shook hands and went home and everything was cool.
Yeah, yeah, man. It was, man, the hood used to be so different.
Yeah,
and it was fun.
It was fun.
Y'all had a black community.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So and your neighbors would be looking out at you, and the whole nine, no doubt. So
it was a village, baby.
Now you mentioned you came from a musical family. Your mom was a singer.
My mom sang and played piano.
Okay.
My first musical experience was actually playing piano and organ at my dad's church.
Wow. So did you study formally, or was you
At that point, no. At that point, I hadn't. Look, all I could play was triads in root position.
And you played from ear?
Yeah, I played by ear.
Wow.
On piano.
Wow.
But it was like the simple gospel. It wasn't like any, wasn't no flat nines, sharp, flat 5, sharp 9. It wasn't none of that. It was just like some regular.
So would you play? I mean, you played in the church.
Yeah.
How would you learn the songs?
They were hymns,
And,
they were hymns typically all in F.
Now you also said you played organ.
Yeah.
Now that's a little different.
I didn't play organ like Joey D. I played the same stuff on organ that I played on the piano. No pedals, none of that.
Your sisters, you said you're the oldest?
Yeah, I'm the oldest.
You have how many sisters?
I have 3 sisters and a brother. My brother is the youngest.
So we had that in common. I'm the oldest as well. What was it like being the oldest?
It was fine.
Yeah. Did you have to keep them in line and all that?
Not really. Everybody was cool in that respect. I was the wild one.
So how old were you when you started playing trumpet?
I started playing trumpet in 4th grade.
4th grade. Okay. Were you playing at school?
Yeah.
Okay.
I played all through elementary, junior high, high school. By the time I got to high school, I was not taking it seriously at all.
Wow.
Because I was dealing with the percussion, and at that point I was playing drums, but I also got kind of introduced into the larger percussion realm, timpani and marimba and xylophone and all that kind of stuff.
You are the consummate musician, so it makes sense, because one thing I learned noticed about your playing as a drummer, you're very musical.
I try to be, yeah.
Yeah, and I know playing other instruments informs the way you play. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I could tell cats that just they have an understanding of drummers that really understand music.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense.
But I also was lucky in that I grew up in Baltimore at a time when there were some amazing drummers. Well, musicians too, but amazing drummers.
Well, man, Baltimore is just it's some amazing cats that come out of Baltimore. I mean, like, and I'm from Philly.
Yeah.
We got our cats, but Baltimore got some wonderful musicians that come out of there, man. So, was that the vibe in Baltimore when you was coming up? Amongst the young cats.
It was a very special time, but you didn't really realize it while it's happening.
Gotcha.
As I look back on it now, it's like, man, that was, because I grew up in a time, just from the drumming perspective. Well, first of all, there was Dennis.
Dennis Chambers.
Dennis is a peer of mine. There's another guy from Baltimore named Larry Bright, who in some ways was actually physically stronger than Dennis. He wasn't as musical as Dennis, but he's physically stronger than Dennis. There was Scott Peaker. There was George Gray. There was Lorinda Featherstone. There was just a whole bunch of killing drummers.
Wow.
All right. Then there was some guitar players. There was a great bass player, one of my best friends, Tony Bunn. There was just a bunch of music in Baltimore at that time. Yeah. And then you had Gary Bartz. Yeah. You had Chester Thompson. Yeah. You had just a bunch of folks. Yeah. It was a bunch of folks. Yeah, it was a real fertile musical environment, and we all kind of gravitated towards each other. We had our own little kind of music community. Everybody, it was funny because there was the funk crew, and then there was the jazz crew, and usually they didn't interconnect. And my thing was I was trying to get to both of them.
You trying to get all of them?
I was trying to get all of them.
Wow. So did the music come easy for you?
It's not that it came easy for me, but I recognize some things when I was confronted with something that was like a hole in my playing. It was like, okay, I got to fix that.
Gotcha.
And I searched out what I needed to do to fix that.
Gotcha.
But
you were able to read music.
I've been playing trumpet since the fourth grade. So
because some people they can play. You
put a piece of music in front of them.
They blind.
well, the old joke about guitar players and music, right?
What's that?
How you get a guitar player to turn down? Put some music in front of them.
That's funny. Yeah, but you were able to read.
Yeah, I could read.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were your reading chops pretty strong?
Yeah, especially after once my parents came to the conclusion that trumpet thing is not going to be what he's going to do, and I really wanted to learn. I started taking lessons with a guy by the name of Chuck Memphis. Mm-hmm. And Chuck Memphis was principal percussionist with the Baltimore Symphony.
Okay. He
also taught at Peabody. So I started my lessons with him. And he was one of those, that was at the time when you couldn't even say the word jazz in Peabody.
Wow.
Okay, it was like, ooh, right? But he was different. Mm-hmm. He was, totally legit, played all the stuff, marimba, xylophone, timpani, blah, 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 blah. And he laid all that stuff on me. But he also played jazz.
Wow.
Kind of, sort of. But at least he gave me it wasn't like, well, no, we won't do that. We're only going to do this. Yeah. He was all encompassing.
Gotcha.
So we had all of that. And then I went to Peabody for a little while. And man, Peabody was so expensive. And then I said, then he took a position teaching applied at Morgan. It's like, well, wait a minute. I can spend all this money over here for Peabody and be in like this really toxic environment.
Wow.
Or I can go to Morgan and still have the same teacher, because it was the teacher that I was really interested in. It wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
So I went to Morgan and still studied with him. And that worked out perfect.
I was going to ask you, was there a person that impacted you as a musician? Would you say this cat is...
He's the one that gave me what I needed to be able to do what I needed to play, in terms of technique, in terms of understanding how music works, at least from the percussive side, and gave me, that wide range of knowledge amongst all the instruments in the percussion family.
Okay, so I called you a drummer. You're also a percussionist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So you can play all the different percussion instruments?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't shedded on marimba in years, but yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So you mentioned that you were playing trumpet one day, and you saw a cat playing drums.
I saw my man.
And he, hold on. How old were you at this point?
I was ninth grade.
Ninth grade. Okay.
Yeah.
And you literally chose to play drums because,
bruh, at that point I was just discovering girls, and it was like, and with this horn up here, I wasn't getting no play.
Well, yeah.
None. And as soon as I sat down and played boom boom top boom boom boom, it's like,
yeah. Wow. So when did you know that you wanted to pursue music as a life calling? Like, did you know that at an early age? That I know you were playing trumpet. Was it when you started playing drums?
I knew I enjoyed playing drums. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that I wanted to do this as a living and as a life's calling, and didn't even realize that I was being called, because there's two ways that this happens. It's like, I want to do this, or the music says you're going to do this. You're going to do this.
Yeah,
right?
Yes, sir.
So the thing that got me to that point was I was involved in a group in Baltimore called Umoja Experience, which was kind of a theatrical group, like a theatrical troupe of actors and singers and dancers, and they chronicled African American music from slave time up until the present. This would have been 79-ish, somewhere in there. From slavery up until the present. They had costume changes and all this stuff. And somehow they got a tour of Europe. Wow. I was 19.
Wow.
I was 19. We got a tour of Europe doing all the major festivals.
Wow.
We did Montreux, we did North Sea, we did Umbria, we did Jazz Avienne, we did all the major festivals. I'm 19. This is a whole world that I didn't know anything about.
You were playing drums and percussion, or just drums?
No, just drums.
Okay.
It was a trio. It was a piano trio with, we kind of covered all this music, field hollers and ragtime and and up till some jazz stuff.
How was it received?
It was received very well.
Okay.
But the thing that made me, the thing that says you going to do this.
Yeah.
All right. And I think I may have told you this story before. We were at the North Sea Festival, and at that time everybody played at the North Sea, stayed at the same hotel, and while I was there, we got there, we're in a hotel, kind of chilling, I think we played the next night, I think that's what it was, and while I'm there, I saw Ella Fitzgerald.
Wow.
Because Ella was, everybody plays in North Sea.
Yeah.
So Ella was there, but Ella was sick, and she was in her wheelchair. She had her nurse with her,
Wow.
She was sick, and I'm man, poor Ella. After I saw her in the lobby in the wheelchair, I found out that we'd be playing the next night on the main stage, opening for Ella Fitzgerald.
Wow.
And then my first reaction was, "Oh, great, we get to open for Ella."
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, Ella's sick.
Yeah,
Man. You know, and it was like that. It was a weird kind of balance of emotions there. So anyway, so the next night we go there. In fact, it was 3 acts on the bill that night. It was the Don Ellis Big Band, then us, and then Ella Fitzgerald.
Wow.
Okay. So I get down to the stage, backstage. Don Ellis Big Band is playing. They're doing their thing. They finish. We go out. We do our thing. Applause, 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 applause. And we finish up. And Ella's band starts to set up. By the way, Keeter was in the band. Keeter Betts was in the band. Wow. I didn't know him then.
Okay.
Didn't even meet him.
Wow.
But it was kind of funny. We talked about this like later on.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Ella's band gets set up. Ella comes down, and she's in the wheelchair. And I'm serious. She's in the wheelchair, and she really she's like this. Mm-hmm. She's sick. I mean, she's real sick.
She had diabetes.
She had all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
And so I'm backstage, and I'm going, oh, man. Because it was my first time actually seeing Ella live.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, this is so sad. So they wheel her up to, like, the edge of the curtain. The guy comes out. The announcer comes out, says, Madame Monsieur, Miss Ella Fitzgerald, and she gets out of her wheelchair, and as soon as she hits the stage, she's not sick anymore.
Wow.
She's not sick anymore. I mean, at least you can't see that she's sick.
Wow.
It was like boom, boom, boom. She probably did 2 hours.
Really?
She probably did 2 hours.
Get out of here, man.
Energy, encores, flowers, the whole thing, right? So, and I'm backstage. I'm backstage in the wings, watching this. And when she finished, she comes back. She says goodbye. Comes backstage, and as soon as she gets back in the wings, she's in a wheelchair. She's sick again. I mean, sick.
Wow, that's heavy.
And I'm 19, and I'm seeing this, and it was the first time that I'd really seen the therapeutic nature of this music. Mm-hmm. The ability for this music to be more than some black dots on a white piece of paper. Yeah. There's some spirituality behind this music. Yeah. There's something greater than, me. Yeah. There's something else happening here. Yeah, some
healing powers.
Yeah, there's something else happening here. So that was the point in which it started to be not about playing the drums to try to get some girls, but a higher purpose of what this was what this was about. Yeah. So that was when that happened.
Wow. Yeah. And so it was all music from there.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, did you have any other aims prior to that, like that, aspirations?
Well, I mean, in terms of
be a dentist.
No. The only thing I think if I wasn't a musician, I might be a lawyer or something.
Gotcha. Yeah. Wow.
Because I read a lot. Mm-hmm. I am a bit anal in terms of being exact about stuff. Mm-hmm. So I could probably have been a lawyer.
Gotcha.
But I wound up doing some other stuff too.
We're gonna talk about it. So I want to go back to when you first got the jazz bug. Okay. When you first heard jazz. First of all, what kind of music did you listen to? I know you said you came out to church.
Right.
Rock and roll was on the radio.
Well, I did rock and roll.
When you listen to R&B?
R&B wasn't as much.
Pips.
It wasn't that much. I was into rock and roll and more. There was fusion. There was rock and roll. There was, I'm not even sure what to call it, like groups like Yes and King Crimson and kind of like the progressive rock.
Really?
Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Those kind of like.
You were into that stuff?
I was into that stuff.
Wow.
Because Frank Zappa.
Really?
Wow. Because it was, at that time, there was more music happening in that.
Gotcha.
There was, it was more orchestrated. It was more dense. It wasn't a 3.5 minute song that you dance to. You know, it was like this larger compositional structure. So that's the kind of stuff that I was into.
Wow. So you mentioned that you had heard a record.
Yeah. This was like when I was like in the 8th grade.
8th grade, you heard that was
the 8th
Max
and 9th
Roach?
grade. It was Max, and I didn't even know who Max Roach was at the time.
You just heard it.
I just heard him, and because I'm trying to play drums and I'm doing my little rock and roll, simple rock and roll stuff, and Max is doing what Max did, And
now, were you playing drums at this by this time?
By this time I was playing drums.
Okay.
So which was why I was so kind of blown away, because I know what it took for me to play the little simple stuff that I was playing.
Yeah.
And Max was doing all this stuff that I couldn't figure out. I had no idea what he was doing, how he was doing, and most importantly, why he was doing it.
You remember what album that was?
I don't remember what album it was.
Okay. Was he playing something up tempo?
Oh yeah.
And you were fascinated with the drums or just the music?
I was fascinated with the whole thing.
Okay.
But the drumming part was the thing that really got me, not because I thought it was great, but because I had no idea what it was or how it was or what is this?
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's what kind of got me in terms of like trying to figure out how to do that, which is why when I met, Chuck Memphis, and he started kind of showing me how that worked, because there's a I won't say a formula, but there's a technique to playing that independence of being able to have the cymbal doing this and the hi-hat doing this and the snare drum doing, all that independent. There's a technique to doing that, and he laid that on me. It was like, ding.
Wow.
Okay, now I get it. And
did you start listening more to jazz?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. And how did you come to tell your dad that, Dad, I'm going to be playing the devil's music? I'm just playing.
You know that's what he called it, right? That's what he called it. It's like at that point, they come to the conclusion that they had done whatever they had done to put in me, my fundamental
values,
my values, and at that point I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
By this time I'm like 16, and it's like, I'm over here. Sorry.
Were they disappointed? Were your parents disappointed when you?
I guess.
Okay.
To this day, my mom she still wants me to be a preacher. My mom still wants me to preach.
Do you have preacher instinct in you?
Not really.
Yeah, I don't see you as a preacher.
Not really.
I do. I can see you as you look like a preacher.
I could do
it. Yeah, you look like a preacher, but you seem like the kind of preacher that would be like, we are gathered here today. Like you know.
No. See, here's my thing. One of the things that I really appreciate about my dad and my granddad, is that they were really passionate and really honest and really committed to their life's work for which they were called.
Gotcha.
All right, they were called to do that.
Yeah.
I wasn't called to do that. I was called to do this. And I'm being serious. And that's how I kind of laid it on them too.
Yeah.
I was called to do this.
Yeah.
If I did that, I'd be one of them fake preachers.
Yeah.
Because that's not what I was called to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, could I go out and sham and do my thing and make my money? Of course I could. Mm-hmm. Of course I could. I've been seeing it all my life. I know how that works. But I wouldn't be real doing it.
Gotcha.
It would be fake, and I refuse to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Gotcha.
Because just like this music has its spiritual aspect. Obviously, that has its spiritual thing too, and I ain't messing with the spirit, bro.
Yeah. I hear that. Come on. No doubt.
So they were disappointed, but they've come to realize that the choices that I made because that's where my life has kind of been directed, and what's happened since I made that choice kind of proves that out.
Yeah. No doubt. And I read also that you've also had a little play with some R&B groups like Jean Carne, who I actually did a gig with her at Blues Alley years ago. Roy Ayers, the OJs. So
now I didn't play with Roy or the OJs.
okay,
There was a tour. There used to be all these theaters in around the country. Painter's Mill. There was a mill. There's one outside of Chicago. There's one outside of New York and Jersey. There's a lot of these theaters in around where it's a round theater, and in the middle of it is a stage, and the stage kind of rotates. So we did a whole tour of all these theaters in the rounds, and I was playing with Gene, and the bill was Gene Carne, Roy Ayers, and the OJs, and we were out on tour for I don't know, 2 months, 2.5 months. Yeah, it was.
Now, so how were you able to? Now, is there art to being able to go? A lot of jazz cats can't go over to that other thing. You know what I'm saying?
I know. And I was one of them.
Really?
Oh yeah.
So you were faking it?
No. I got that gig after I figured out how to do that the correct way.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Remember I was telling you about the tour with the Pomoja experience, right?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Also on that tour, when we did Montreux, we were in Montreux, and at all these festivals, everybody's kind of seeing who the new guy is, who's here, blah blah blah, and I was the new guy, okay. So I get a call, and it was the MD for Etta James. We need a drummer. Etta needs a drummer for her show at Montreux. And first of all, I had no idea who Etta James was. I knew who Etta Jones was. Right? Etta Jones was jazz singer, blah, 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 straight ahead, right? Etta James was really a rock and roll singer.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that. Right?
Gotcha.
I mean, and I mean like a heavy hitting rock and roll singer. And I'm playing my little tippy stuff, right? So I get to the rehearsal. MD calls the first tune. We play the tune. Kind of an awkward silence at the end. He goes, "Okay, let's try this one." He calls another tune. About halfway through the tune, he says, "All right, cut." He walks up to me, slaps $100 on me. Yeah, this ain't gonna work.
Oh,
this ain't gonna work.
Wow.
And the reason why it didn't work is because even though I knew the beats to the song, I didn't know how to get the sound out of the drums for the song, because I'd never played in one of those bands.
Wow.
I'd never really played in one of those bands, like for real.
Yeah.
So when I got back off of that tour, that tour from the first thing I did was I got a gig with a funk R&B band, so I could learn how to do that and do it. And it was one of those situations where I wasn't getting paid anything. I mean, but it was not very much. But it was a learning. I did it for the learning experience, and I learned a lot. I learned how to hit the drums. I learned how to get that sound. I learned the difference in tuning between the jazz thing and the R&B funky thing, and it was a bunch of stuff that I was talking about filling those holes. I needed to fill that hole.
Yeah.
No
doubt.
So
you got it now.
I'm cool. I'm cool now, brother.
Well, a lot of jazz cats. A lot of times we think because we're playing this high level boom band that we can kind of just go into something that doesn't require a bunch of technique and all this that type of jazz technique. It's a whole.
It's a different technique, but it's a technique, bro.
Even like contemporary jazz, like a lot of cats. I mean, to go with that, it's a different. You got to respect it.
Yeah.
You got to respect it, and or else you're gonna be playing at it.
You'll be playing at it. Exactly.
Let's go back to your college days.
Okay.
You mentioned that you went to Peabody Conservatory, and you also went to Morgan.
Yeah.
Okay, so you started at Peabody.
I started at Peabody, yeah.
Okay. What made you choose Peabody? Was it
because it was in Baltimore, and it was it was a conservatory, And quite frankly, because my teacher was teaching there.
What was your major?
I was a music major, performance. At Peabody. When I went to Morgan, I switched to education.
Okay. You got smart. Was it something that made you switch to education?
I won't say it was as a backup. I think it was more to kind of please my mom.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It was more to kind of please my mom.
Yeah. So you can get a job.
So I can get a job, but I wasn't even thinking about the job aspect. I was thinking about kind of smoothing it over about So it was more like. Gotcha. Okay, if you're going to be a teacher, it'll be okay. You can play that devil's music.
That's hilarious. Did you graduate from Morgan?
Yeah.
Okay. So that overseas tour that you taught, that was your first time overseas?
Yeah.
What was that experience? Just overall, like traveling.
It was great.
Really? Yeah.
It's
beautiful to get. Yeah.
That was my first time on a plane.
Wow.
My first time on a plane, I went to Switzerland.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
And then we went, around while we were over there.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool, man. All right. At some point, you would join the 26th Army Band.
Yes.
And was stationed in Brooklyn, New York. Mm-hmm. Okay. So is this after you graduated?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Now, before we talk about that, do you remember, were you gigging around Baltimore a lot? Mm-hmm. And what was the scene like in Baltimore? What was were you playing more jazz?
I was playing a bunch of different stuff. Okay. There was a place kind of close to my house called the Sportsman's Lounge.
Man, I used to play this in the early 90s, late 80s. I used to come down to Baltimore and play this, me and Dante Winslow.
Right.
The Sportsman's Lounge. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, I was there in its heyday.
Yeah.
I was there in its heyday. In fact, it's in Gwynn Oak Junction. Uh-huh. And all right, so the Sportsman's is kind of on that street. Mm-hmm. I forget what the name of the street is. But if you go a little bit farther down, and it's not there anymore. There used to be an amusement park down there. Gwynn Park Amusement Park.
So is this the 80s?
This would have been the 70s.
Wow.
It would have been the 70s. And that was my first job at that amusement park.
Oh, at the
amusement park.
Okay.
But anyway, I played at the Sportsman's, and the Sportsman's was like the serious jazz place.
Yeah.
But I also played at a place called Gatsby's. Which was kind of a disco place. It was one of those 3-level joints.
Gotcha.
The bottom floor was the disco. The second floor was they had like pool tables and all kinds of stuff. And on the top level was kind of the jazz club.
Oh,
right?
okay.
It wasn't jazz per se. It was jazzy.
Gotcha.
It was jazzy. And I played with a really good friend of mine named Rhonda Coleman. She played
Rhonda, the piano? I know Rhonda.
Rhonda.
She's bad.
Rhonda.
She's married to a bassist.
She's married to Butch.
Yeah, but right? Yeah. I know
so it was Rhonda and Mark Russell was the bass player at that time, and we played at Gatsby's for 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Every weekend.
Was the Haven around back then?
The Haven, I'm sure it was. I didn't know about it.
Okay.
I'm sure it was around, but
okay.
But it wasn't doing music per se at that point.
Gotcha. Now, so I wanted to ask you, during that time when you were playing, would you also come to DC?
No.
So you weren't.
I was not. No.
Wow, that's cool.
You'd be surprised the amount of difference between DC and Baltimore.
Wow.
Baltimore is like a real city.
Yeah, Baltimore reminds me of Philly.
Yeah, Baltimore. Exactly.
Yeah.
Baltimore is a real city. DC is. It's its own thing. It's not like a city.
Yeah.
There's not like industry.
Yeah.
Gotcha. In Baltimore, the biggest employer in Baltimore was Bethlehem Steel at that point. That's a steel town.
Gotcha. Yep.
So it was a different vibe. It's a different vibe. But I was playing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But what happened was I it wasn't enough for me to make a living just doing gigs. So I was working at a music store, and there was a guy that came in. He moved from Alabama, I think, and he was also working at this music store. He was teaching. I was kind of like the assistant manager at this music store. He was teaching trumpet player, and he came into work one day. He says, "Man, I'm auditioning for the Army band." I said, "What are you talking about?" And he showed me the listing, and they had auditions, positions open, and one of them was for percussionist.
Wow.
In New York.
Okay.
And I'm like,
yeah.
New York. And if you plan trying to play this music, you got to go to New York.
No doubt.
Right? So it's like, oh, okay. Let's see if I can have Uncle Sam pay for me to move to New York. And it worked out.
Wow.
It worked out.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
so I was in New York with the 26th Army Band in Brooklyn for 4 years.
Wow. Now, so I read that you would become part of the music scene in New York at that time. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, what was the years? What was the years?
This would have been 80 to 84.
Okay.
81 to 85, and then I got out and moved here.
Okay. So what was the vibe like in New York when you were there?
Oh, the vibe was great.
Because that was right before the Young Lions, like Roy Hargrove and them. Because, New York had its periods, right?
No,
but I think Wynton was
there.
Yeah.
That was like my last year there was the year that Wynton won the Grammy on both sides.
Yeah.
The jazz and classical Grammy. The
Who was
same
that
year.
other trumpet player that was Tom? He had a, his name was it Tom something? But he was another cat. They said he was. It's a song. It was a.
Who, Tom Brown?
Tom Brown.
Oh yeah.
What's that song
Funkin' for Jamaica?
Yeah. Fuck. Was he?
No.
He wasn't there when you were.
He was there, but
Okay.
he wasn't. He was. That was that whole Jamaica Queens.
But I heard he can really.
He can play.
Yeah.
He can play.
Yeah.
But he wasn't a Wynton.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
He's a pilot.
He's a who?
A pilot. An airline.
Oh,
airline
I didn't know
pilot.
that.
Yeah,
No.
he's an airline.
Wow. Yeah, but I heard that he was on. Was a cat.
He was on the scene. I mean, but it was a different scene.
Okay.
It was a different scene.
Okay.
And he wasn't.
But is that the period you were there?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was was Branford?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you Tane?
Yeah, that's when I met Tane. That whole time, I made a lot of connections during that period that are still around to this day.
Yeah.
And I was just hanging out with Tane last week.
Wow. I was going to ask you, you still got your New York phone number?
I do not.
Because you know what cats do.
Yeah, I know. Especially now, where
Yeah. they move back. They move back home and still got their New York number.
Look, I talked to. I gave Lou Donaldson a call last week, and he's got 2 numbers. They both New York numbers. He lives in Florida.
Wow. Yeah.
They both New York numbers.
Wow. Man, I wish I would have really got some of that New York stuff. I would go visit. And it's a different energy.
It's a different, and I always say that it's at some point you need to live in New York for a minute.
Yeah.
You don't need to stay there.
Yeah.
But at some point, and it's probably less important now than it was then, just because New York isn't the same now as it was then.
Yeah.
But it's still important.
Yeah.
Number one, to become a part of that community.
Yeah.
But more importantly, to really see where the musical bar is.
Yeah.
Because if you just pop in and pop out, you see some cats, and that's great.
Yeah.
The eye-opening thing for me was living in New York, was seeing how wide people's musical ranges are. Mm-hmm. So Victor Lewis is a good friend of mine, and it was great to see him playing with, I don't know, Woody Shaw tonight, and then at the Vanguard, and then next week seeing him at SOB's playing with like some Brazilian band, and then hearing him play like some funky stuff with somebody. It's like this wide range of you're not just in this little narrow pigeonhole. It's like it's wide open, and because there's all these different, not cliques, but different areas and different groupings of folks and playing different kind of music. As a rhythm section player, you can move around between all those things. And the more you move around between all those things and the more experience you get in each of those kind of areas, the more your whole thing kind of grows.
Yeah. How was you able to find your niche in New York? Like, because there's a lot of bad drummers.
There's a lot of bad drummers.
Yeah.
A lot of bad everybody.
Yeah.
But you know what? Here's the thing. New York has some of the greatest musicians in the world. Mm-hmm. New York also has some of the saddest. Because there's 8 million people there.
Yeah.
Everybody can't be great.
Yeah.
It's got both.
Yeah.
It's got all of that.
Gotcha.
And you can see, and you kind of get an idea. Okay, well, where do I fit in this thing?
Yeah.
And you'll find that the folks that like what you do, either you'll gravitate towards them or they'll gravitate towards you, one or the other.
Yeah.
And stuff happens. Just 80% of life is just showing up.
Yeah, no doubt. Was George V. Johnson there around that time?
I didn't know George.
You didn't know George? Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you that. Now you had a group or something, didn't you? You formed a band?
Oh yeah.
In New York?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't supposed to, but yeah.
Who were some of the cats that was in your band?
Let's see. When I put together that band, there was a place. First of all, there's a place. It's not there anymore. Called 55 Grand. Mm-hmm. It's on the corner of West Grand and Canal Street, down in Lower Manhattan, and it was the hangout. Like the hangout.
Yeah. Gotcha.
All right. So the club was on the first level, and Mike and Lenny Stern were on the second level. And
Mike Stern?
Yeah.
Oh,
guitar
wow.
player Mike Stern. Mm-hmm. And how do I put this delicately? The man was on the third floor. And I'll just leave it like that. All right? Okay. But it was a place where everybody hung out. When I say everybody, I mean everybody.
Wow.
I played with Jocko in there.
Wow.
I played with Michael Brecker in there. I played with, just, and not as a gig, just kind of hanging out and jamming and,
Yeah.
But that's where my band would play from time to time. Mm-hmm. And it would be, there was a guy named Anthony Cox, Anthony is from somewhere in the Midwest, a bass player. Kind of an avant-garde-ish kind of guy, but not like totally. He also, he could swing and keep time and band cat. There was John Purcell on saxophones. Mm-hmm. Either Kenny Kirkland or Onaje Alan Gumbs on piano.
Wow.
And myself. Yeah.
Wow.
We got written up in the Village Voice. Now, I'm still in the Army.
Wow.
I'm still in the Army, right?
Yeah.
Not supposed to be doing gigs. At that point, there was a rule like you couldn't do outside gigs. And
wow.
I'm a rebel. Sorry.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that was the whole reason why I did this. I didn't.
What was it like playing with Kenny Kirkland?
Oh man, I've known Kenny for a long time.
I listened to him last night. Yeah. Wow, that's some heavy. You were playing with some of the heavyweights, man.
But
now, were you intimidated at all, or were you
not really intimidated? I mean, I was still trying to find myself.
Okay.
I was still trying to find my footing within that, but I wasn't intimidated.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny. At that time, I had a BMW 2002. Mm-hmm. All right. And I went down. My car's parked in front of the spot, and Marcus Miller came in, Yeah, Marcus was, he wasn't where he is now, but he was right. Marcus came in, and he says, because my car was slick. Right? He says, whose car is that? I said, yeah, that's me. He says, oh, okay. The next week, he had a BMW.
Wow. He said, go get me one. Wow. Yeah,
But it was that kind of vibe. It was everybody was I wasn't in the whole studio scene, because Michael and Randy would come down, after they finished, a day of, doing, 25 hits in the studio, from studio to studio. Yeah, I wasn't on that scene, but I was in the mix.
Yeah.
I was in the mix. Yeah. And it was a good time. It was a good time.
I remember you were playing with touring with Lou Donaldson. Did that come from that connect right there?
No.
Wow.
No.
Okay.
How did that come? All right, so during that time, I would hang out at Bradley's too.
Okay.
All right, because Bradley's was rolling then. And that was the time that Sphere was around. Kenny Barron and Bulldog and Ben Riley, right? So I met all those guys, hung out with those guys, saw Ben, and met Ben. Ben and I became not fast friends, but we knew each other and acknowledged each other. And actually I did a cruise. Who was I playing that cruise? I think I was playing that cruise with Stanley. No, it wasn't Stanley. It was Vanessa.
Vanessa Rubin.
With Vanessa Rubin. And Ben was I think he was playing with Sphere, and we hung out. So years later, I moved back to New York. This would have been in the 90s. Moved back to New York, and
you moved back to. I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
Because you.
I was in
DC?
Florida. I was like all over the place.
Yeah.
But I moved back to New York, and it was January, and I'm like letting everybody know I'm back in town, trying to get some work. And I go down to Vanguard. Lou Donaldson is the band. I did not know Lou, but Ben was playing with him. So I said, let me go down and see Ben, let him know I'm in town, blah, blah, blah. So I go down to Vanguard, go back, downstairs in the kitchen. They back in the kitchen. And Ben introduces me to Lou Donaldson. He says, yeah, this is Lenny Robinson, he just moved back in town, to let you know who he is, in case you need a good drummer. Can this boy play?
Got that high voice?
Yeah. I said, yeah, he can play. Yeah. He says, well, I wish I'd met you before, because he was actually going to be at the Vanguard for 2 weeks, and Ben could only do the first week.
Gotcha.
All right? He says, I wish I met you before, but I already got a drummer for next week. I said, no problem. Gave him my card back. We used cards back then. Gave him my card, and he says, okay, cool. Took my card. So the next week, they opened on Tuesday night, and it was a blizzard. It was snow. I drove down through the snow. I wanted to hear, see what's up. And I walk into Vanguard. Dr. Lonnie's playing organ. Peter Bernstein's playing guitar. Lou's up there playing, and there's no drums on stage.
Wow.
There's no drummer, no drums on stage.
Wow.
So at the end of the night, Lou walks by me. I sat. You know how the Vanguard is. They got that little bench just like right next to the stage. Right, I'm sitting there, and Lou finishes his solo. He says, "You got the drums with you tonight, boy?" I said, "No, sorry, I don't." And he walked away. So at the end of the night, at the end of the set, I said, "Lou, I don't have my drums with me tonight, but I can have them tomorrow night."
Yeah.
I'm not gonna miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right? So he looks at Lonnie. He says, should I give this boy a chance? Because he had just met me the Friday before. It's Tuesday. He had just met me. Didn't know me from nobody. and the only thing he knew was Ben Raleigh told him I could play.
Gotcha.
Right? Should I give this boy a chance? Lonnie's like, it's your gig. What you want to do? Yeah. So he looks at me and says, tomorrow night, 9:30. Now, I've been in New York 10 days.
Wow.
I've been in New York 10 days, and I'm at the Vanguard.
Wow.
So I take my drums down, set them up. We play the first set. Doesn't say anything to me. I'm like, oh, okay. Play the second set. Doesn't say anything to me. I'm like, oh, man. So I said, Lou, what's up? He looks at me and says, tomorrow night, 9:30.
You got the gig.
I got the gig. We went to Paris about 3 weeks after that, and did 2 weeks at the Meridian. And then about a month after that, we did a tour of Europe, and then we did another tour of Europe. And so, yeah.
Well, now, how's it that in a place like New York, where you got 1,000 drummers, right? Mm-hmm. And Lou needs a drummer, and here you come, only 10 days in.
Just like I said, remember I was talking.
The spirit, there you go, yeah.
The spirit was looking out for me.
Yeah, no doubt.
That was just.
Yeah, you were supposed to have.
I was supposed to have that.
Yeah,
that was supposed to happen.
Yeah,
because that didn't have anything to do with me.
No doubt. Yeah.
It wasn't like he heard me play somewhere and said, "Yeah, I want that guy." It wasn't that. He didn't know me from Adam.
That is something, man.
And like I told you, I talked to him.
Y'all still talk over there?
Yeah, I talked to him last week, and I said, "Man, I just want to thank you, bro. Because you didn't have to do that.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
And it worked out. It worked out fine.
Wow, beautiful. What made you decide to leave New York the first time you left?
Oh, the first time my son was born.
Okay.
And crack was running rampant.
Yeah.
It was the wild, wild west in New York.
Yeah.
Folks, there was shootouts on the corner.
Yeah, I remember. That was 80s.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was like, and
that's when the ghetto started turning.
Yeah, that's when it started turning.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? I can't raise my son here. He ain't going.
So did you go back to Baltimore?
No, I came here.
You came,
and the reason why I came here is because my wife got a job.
Okay.
She got a job here working for the National Governors Association.
Wow. So what was your impression of D.C.? Because when you started really getting out in the scene here?
I didn't know anything about D.C. What I did do is I had heard about the One Step Down, and I went down to the One Step Down because it was between it and Blues Alley. What else was it? Mr. Wise was around, but it wasn't as well known as the One Step. But I went
at the Twins. Did you go to Twins?
Twins wasn't open yet.
Oh, wasn't okay.
It wasn't open yet.
Okay.
But anyway, so I went down to the One Step, and Lawrence Wheatley had the Saturday and Sunday jam session workshops, as he called it. And I went down, and I came in, sat in and played few times and wound up starting to do that.
Yeah.
And that's how I started getting into, the scene here. Because I didn't know anything about it.
Wow. Interesting.
I didn't know anything about DC.
Yeah,
but when we were looking at leaving New York, this was the only place that made sense to me. Leaving New York. Now, if I was leaving Baltimore, then maybe not. But leaving New York, this was the only place that made sense.
Close to home.
No, not even close to home. In terms of it being an international city, it being a city of education, a bunch of different schools, just the vibe. This is the closest place to New York. Yeah. That's still kind of close to New York.
Yeah, gotcha.
Because Chicago is too far away.
Yeah.
And Philly is not really it.
Yeah.
I could have gone to Philly, but that would have been moving from like this to that. Even though Philly is big, it's still like a city. Yeah. This, like I said, DC.
And the crack was crazy.
Crack was everywhere. Yeah. But because it wasn't, DC is not as big and not as prevalent and not as crazy. It just made more sense.
Okay.
It just made more sense.
Okay. You've been one of the now. You've gone from not knowing anything about DC, just getting to be like one of the first call drummers in the DMV. You've played with everybody, and we mentioned some of them, right?
One of them's calling me right now.
Yeah. So for the young up and coming drummers, what is it about you and your playing that makes people go, "Hey, Lenny, can you make this gig?"
Something you mentioned earlier, which is focusing on music rather than drums.
Yeah. being musical. Yeah,
yeah. That's the important thing. You know, the one of the hardest lessons for young students to learn is what not to play. Mm-hmm. The process of editing, like editing yourself while you're playing. That's a tough lesson to learn, unless you put yourself in really musical situations where you have to. You know, if you're talking about playing, you know, some standards or some swing stuff, you need to know them tunes.
Yeah.
As a drummer, you need to know those tunes.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't sing the melody to How High the Moon, how you going to trade fours on it?
Yeah.
How you going to play a chorus on it if you don't know the melody to that? If you can't hear the changes.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing that I think makes people say, yeah, he's going to be cool.
Yeah.
You know, you got to play musically. You got to be able to read. You got to be able to. One of the things that I think I get called for. One of the reasons why I get called is, you know, drums were originally designed. The original purpose of the drum is not to play music or to dance to, or the original purpose of the drum was for communication. And it's loud. It can play. It can, you know, to send messages from one village to another village. Playing the drums loud is pretty easy. Mm-hmm. Okay, being able to play them soft and still have the intensity that's there is where the artistry comes in. Yeah. You know, and you have to be very intentful when you do that. You know, that's got to be like something that you're actually trying to do, because it's not going to happen naturally. Because your natural inclination is to hit the damn drum.
Yeah. I noticed that about your playing. Some drummers, like with you, I could feel the pulse.
The pulse, but it doesn't have to be loud.
Yeah, you feel and you can ride as a saxophone player. You can ride on it because it's just laying down. And
the thing is that one of the things that I see some folks do is they start to get into themselves, and when you have a soloist. The soloist should be leading the way in terms of like the contour of the you know, the hills and peaks and valleys of the music, and some folks want to kind of do that from the drummer's chair while, you know, like you out in front, you doing your thing, you know, and you going like you doing this because you want to, you know, come down here so you can do that again, and the drummer's like saying and it's like it's not you know, so the idea of being able to let the soloist lead the way through the peaks and valleys, as opposed to, you know, you being into yourself and saying, look, mom, what I can do, you know.
And I notice you get a lot of calls from vocalists, and it's probably for that very reason, being able to be musical. And, you also have a nice personality.
Look,
you're easy to get along with.
That doesn't hurt. Yeah, that never hurts.
you know, some cats, man, they can play, but they might be a little difficult. You know what I'm saying? Difficult.
I've been there.
Yeah, so
I've been there.
I just wonder. Here's some of the wonderful musicians you performed with, man. Clifford Jordon, George Coleman, Archie Shepp. Wow.
There's a recording. NPR has a recording. I'm not sure if they actually ever played it, but remember that place that was across from Howard? What was that place called?
The little club?
Yeah.
It's not Benny's.
Oh man, what's the name of that place? I don't remember, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right? They brought Archie Shepp in.
Really?
There for an NPR recording, some jazz NPR recording with Archie Shepp and myself, and I think Novacell. I'm not sure who might have played piano. I don't remember right. It's been years ago. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah, man. Of course, the great Larry Willis. Terrence Blanchard. You played with Terrence? Wow. Dewey Redman?
At the One Step.
Oh, wow.
At the One Step.
Terrence Blanchard, right?
No, Dewey.
Okay.
At the One Step.
Wow. Okay. Ronnie Mathews, John Hicks, Buster Williams, Roy Hargrove. Man. And you also performed with Stanley Turrentine.
Oh, that was in.
You was in this band.
Now that was one where You remember I was telling about, how you asked me about Lou Donaldson. I said it wasn't that he saw me playing somewhere. With Stanley, it was.
Oh, how did that happen?
All right, so I had a gig. I had a gig down at Blues Alley. It was, who was in the band? It was me and Alan Johnson. I don't remember who else was in the band right this minute. But anyway, that's when Stanley was living here. And he just came down. He was hanging out, being Stanley. And we were playing. And he had never met me. And after the hit, we started talking. And he said, man, let me get your number, man. About 3 weeks later, Judith, his wife, who was his manager, called me. She said, can you make a gig? It was at the Blue Note in New York. It was my first gig with Stanley.
Wow.
And it was also my last gig with Stanley. Not that one. But but years later, we'd played when he passed, he had a stroke when we were at the Blue Note. My first gig with Stanley was at the Blue Note, and then years later, my last gig was at the Blue Note.
Wow. Wow, how long did you play with him?
5 years.
Wow. Man. Beautiful, man. You also played and recorded with Antonio Parker.
That name sounds familiar. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No, man, you was on my first album, and then we did the jazz album with Benito. And man, so you always been a cat, man, that knows how to make it musical. And I really appreciated that, man. And that's probably why you work so much. You're the hardest working drummer.
I don't know about that.
In the DMV. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know about that, but I've been blessed. Yeah.
All right. Would you say that you've succeeded as a jazz musician? Because some people don't get all these kind of.
Well, success is one of those funny words. For some people, success is how big their bank account is, or how big their house is, or whatever. Yeah. My thing, I've been able to provide for my family, and have the opportunity to perform and play and record with some of the best in the world. Am I a millionaire? Nope. Am I, do I have a 3-car garage with a Bentley and no?
Got BMW.
My wife does have a Jag. but to answer your question, yeah, I'd say yeah. Okay. I can count as my true friends some of the best musicians in the world. And we're friends beyond the music.
Gotcha.
I can get on the phone and call Orrin and just hang out and talk with him, or Tane, or Branford, or Terrence, or just talk and shoot the breeze, and it was funny. I was with Joey last night at Keystone, and we were in the dressing room, and there's a picture in the dressing room of Max Roach and Tony Williams talking, right? And somebody made the statement, yeah, man, I bet they talking, some really high level drum stuff. I said, them, they probably talking about cars. They probably talking about cars.
No doubt.
Because after it's said and done, this is all about relationship and about just being humans. I mean, music is what we do. It's what our passion is, but it's not everything that we are.
Yeah, no doubt.
We still have other stuff going. We got bills to pay. We got there's stuff going on, and there's life, kids. So it doesn't have to be.
Always ding ding ding.
It's not always, every conversation doesn't have to be about music.
Wow. All right, we almost to the end, man. But I wonder, what is Intrinsic Value Productions?
All right. Intrinsic Value Production is the name that I've named my production company, and it has to do with the fact that the music that I'm interested in is music that is valuable not because of how much money it can make, but because of the value of the spirit in which the music is given. It's, intrinsic means it's internal. All right. So the value of this music isn't how much money it can make. The value in the music is how much humanity is in it. How much the people that are making this music are being intent are bringing about the spirituality of it, as opposed to it being a formula to make as much money as you can make. Yeah.
And that's not to say that you're not.
I love money.
Yeah.
I love money. But there's I'm a firm believer if you put out music that's good music consistently, the audience will be there for it.
No doubt.
The audience will be there for it. Is it going to be as big an audience as Beyonce has? Probably not. All right, but if your success is not based on how much money you make, but how hopefully you're able to pay your bills and do all the stuff and take care of your family. Yeah. But success for me is am I being true to my craft? Am I taking care of what I need to take care of, my responsibilities and all that kind of stuff? If I'm doing that, if I'm able to do that, doing what I do, I'm good.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I'm good. Now, if Beyonce says we want to do a jazz record, I want you to do it. I'm there, baby. I am there.
Do you have any music business advice that you could share with people that from your experiences that we need to know about?
Be on time and keep your word.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I'm serious.
Yeah. No,
because most people who aren't successful at this it's not because they can't play. All right. I take for granted that somebody can play. If you're doing this and you've been doing this for a minute, the ability for you to play, I kind of take that for granted.
Yeah.
But it's the other stuff around that, what you were talking about, your personality, but in terms of the business part, be on time, keep your word.
Beautiful. Very simple. You also formed the first African-American professional sound manufacturing rep firm?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so when you go into a music store,
okay,
all right, and you see the guitars and the trumpets and blah, 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 blah in the music store, okay? The company, whatever the brand name is, Selmer, Yamaha, whatever, all right, they sold that to the store so the store can sell it to you, all right? So the country is divided into regions, and the company has in each region their representative, all right, that handles the sales to that store. There's two kinds of representatives. There's the larger company representative. For instance, if you're the Yamaha rep, you just rep Yamaha. You might have Yamaha guitars and Yamaha trumpets and Yamaha drums, and all right, but you're the Yamaha rep. All right, I was an independent rep, meaning I had a bunch of different lines.
Okay.
All right?
Wow.
Or there's a bunch of different lines. I started the guitar player in Gene Carn's band. His name was Joe Blacker. He had a rep firm. When I moved back here, I hooked up with Joe, and I actually started working for him for his rep firm. He's an independent rep, had a bunch of lines, really good lines, made a bunch of money. And after a while, I decided that I wanted to kind of branch out on my own. I had some lines. I had BC Rich Guitars, which is like a real rock and roll guitar company. And it was kind of funny because I actually had 3 guitar lines, which typically never happened. I had BC Rich guitars. I had ESP guitars, which is kind of like a real heavy metal kind of guitar. And then I had Heritage guitars, which is all the original guitar makers from the Gibson company left Gibson and started this other company. So I had those 3 guitar companies. I was the Alembic rep. I was the Remo rep. I was the Premier rep. I was the Remo rep with Joe. I was the Premier rep. I had a bunch of different lines. And I had a guy working for me, which made me a firm.
Wow.
Okay, it wasn't just me. I had some guy that was working for me. I was the first African American to do that. There was a few other African American guys that were individual reps. All right, there was a guy in California named Burt Wall who was the Peabody cymbal rep. That's all he did for the entire state of California. Every Peabody cymbal that was sold in California, he made some money on.
Wow.
Right? So there were some individuals, but I was the first one that had a rep firm.
Wow.
That covered not only musical instruments but pro sound gear.
Wow.
So
that's cool, man.
big speakers and power amps and all that kind of stuff.
Were you working with Washington Music Center?
Yeah.
Doing that? Wow.
Yeah. Chuck helped me out a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Chuck helped me out a lot because I had one of the lines I had was a wireless company called Nady, and let's just say they weren't at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
All right, and but he would help me out.
Yeah.
All right, because he realized that I was the only brother in the country that was doing this.
Yeah.
So he wouldn't put Nady on the floor. Like if you walked into Chuck's and looked for, you wouldn't find it, even though he was a dealer.
Yeah.
You wouldn't find it. But what he would do is every month or so, I'd get a call in the office. He said, "Hey boss, I need 12 of those Nady wireless drop ship to Brazil."
Wow.
And that would happen.
Wow.
He's like, UHF wireless systems drop ship to Brazil. I just made some money.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chuck. And he would do that kind of stuff to help me out. So.
Yeah. Chuck Lennys. Oh, yeah.
Chuck was a great guy, man.
Yeah. You have 2 recordings as a leader. One 2005. Was that the first one? Songs I Like to Play.
Actually, the first one was 3 for All.
3 for okay.
3 for All with
All.
me and Alan Johnson and Michael Lyons.
Okay.
And then Songs I Like to Play.
Okay, cool, man. I was listening to songs I like. I was listening to some I didn't know what time it was today. Yeah. Do you also compose?
Some.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about you as an educator briefly.
Okay.
What has your experience been like as an educator?
Wow. As you know, these last couple of years been
no doubt.
been very interesting. For me, it's been challenging, mainly because the students of today are not like we were.
No
They're
doubt.
They're not like we were. Their attention span is way shorter. Their work ethic is not as strong. Their commitment to the arts is not as strong, and most of that is not their fault. It's not their fault that that's the case. It's just the sign of the times. This thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, the computer, and social media, and
all of that has really taken a toll on students and their accomplishments and their efforts to accomplish. So that's been challenging. The pandemic made things challenging, especially for those of us who teach an artistic endeavor, because it's very difficult to teach art via Zoom. It's very difficult. You
did a great job, though, man. I saw your you put together a video.
Like kind of a Brady Bunch looking thing.
Yeah, performance.
Yeah, we did.
I was very impressed by that, man.
We did that year. We did 5 concerts over the course of the year, and each of those concerts, I did because I do concert band and jazz band. And
You want to tell what school?
yeah, I'm at the Landon School.
Okay.
And the Landon School goes from 3rd grade to 12th grade. It's a
This
private
is a private school.
It's
Okay.
a private all-boys school. It goes from 3rd grade to 12th grade. And there's a lower school, a middle school, and an upper school. Mm-hmm. And there's a concert band at all 3 divisions, and there's a jazz band at the middle school and the upper school level. And so we did 5 concerts over the course of that year, like the year when everything was like shut down. Mm-hmm. And each of those concerts was about 70 to 75 man hours of putting together that movie that we were talking about.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And because we couldn't play together, there's like ensemble technique stuff that we just couldn't do. We couldn't do intonation. Yeah. We couldn't do balance and blend and dynamics and playing together and listening across the ensemble. You know, all that stuff that you got to do to be able to play in those environments. We couldn't do any of that stuff. You know, so the kids lost out a lot, you know, during those 2 years. And then when we came back and had, you know, the hybrid.
Yeah.
Whew, it was rough, man.
Yeah.
It was rough.
And you went from being the assistant band director. Mm-hmm. Now you are.
I'm the band director. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you got some extra responsibilities.
Some extra responsibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I feel for you. No, it's good. What are some of the highs in terms of your teaching experience? Any highs?
One of my students was one of my percussion students is a professional classical percussionist.
Okay, wow.
Actually, he's not even playing. He's playing some professionally. He's actually like an A&R guy for Sony Records now. For Sony, this classical division of Sony Records. So there's that. There's but it's not. It's the smaller things that actually make it, that are highs. You know, when a kid, you know, has been trying to really get this, you know, whatever it is, this etude together, and then he finally gets it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Those kind of, it's the little
yeah.
things, not the big things.
Yeah,
The little things
yeah.
that make it kind of worth it. And when you get, you know, when I get a letter from a student, you know, saying, you know, thank you for helping me out, or getting me, it's those kind of things that make it kind of worth it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Now at your school, they pay a lot of money to go to school. So I would say, and I've taught at a private school. I've taught at all kinds of, are your kids agreeable? Are their parents paying all that money?
What do you mean agreeable?
Meaning that I teach in the hood, right?
Right. I've done that too.
So, you know, man, leap tall buildings in a single bound just to get kids to do
anything.
Yeah, and it's like,
same here.
Really?
But it is. I mean, it's, you know, there's a socioeconomic thing that may change, you know, may be different between who I'm teaching and who you're teaching. But the basic humanity and the strains that society puts on kids these days, it's the same. Doesn't matter how much money you got.
What about the appreciation for aesthetics? Like our kids in the hood, they don't get exposed to a lot of things, so they don't appreciate a lot of times things outside of what they know in their
same thing. Because remember, see, here's the thing that I've noticed is that these kids, especially the younger ones, their parents don't have that either.
Gotcha.
They're not being, you know, exposed. You know, it doesn't matter how much money they have. All right, it's what their mindset is, and they're not being exposed to art for art's sake.
Gotcha.
All right.
Yeah.
They're being, you know, when I say music to their parents, all right, their parents immediately think either rock and roll or R&B, and believe it or not, even in that environment, or rap. The parents.
Wow.
This is the parents.
Yeah.
All right. So when you hear, or you know, most of it is in that environment. When you say music to them, what they hear is classic rock.
Yeah. Gotcha.
That's music to them. They don't know anything about any music beyond classic rock either. So you can't expect their kids to know about it and be exposed to it. So that becomes our job.
Yeah.
And the challenge is to present it in a way that piques their interest in it.
Yeah.
Which is difficult. Because it's not, anything that's truly artistic takes a leap. All right? The thing about art is it's not black and white.
Yeah.
It's not cut and dry.
Yeah.
It's like you got to go in and infer, and you've got to be able to kind of see beyond what the surface is, and be willing to dig deeper, and that's just not there.
Wow.
And and trying to get that there, that's the challenge.
Any advice for those students who might want to pursue a career in music? What would you say?
That's a tough one. and the reason why I say that is because first of all, doing contemporary music, and when I say contemporary music, I'm not talking about necessarily smooth jazz, although that becomes part of it. But I mean music that is of today.
Gotcha.
It's so easy now. It's
Yeah.
so easy now.
Yeah.
You can get a laptop and a microphone
And then-
and a computer program, and you can do CDs.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now the music that's on there is not going to be very very deep and or spiritual. It might be spiritual, but it's not going to be very deep. All right, but because the thing that, especially the music that we play, the thing that makes this music so touching and so important is the interplay between people in real time. If you're doing bass track, guitar track, keyboard track, there's no interplay there. There's no connection. There's no human connection. It's all just a track and a track and a track and a track and a track, and then you get the final result.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. And if in certain genres, that's great. But in other, if there's more to music than that.
Gotcha. No doubt.
There's more to music than that.
No doubt.
And I'm not saying that that's bad.
Yeah.
There's nothing bad about that. I do that too.
Yeah.
All right. But there's more to music than that.
Yeah. Before we get to our last questions, in terms of jazz, what do you think jazz is today? And what do we need to do to perpetuate and to keep it going?
I think jazz is in a good place today.
Okay.
All right. And here's why I say that. One of the things that I hate is the idea that jazz, and that's not a word I really like, but it's the word that's out there, so I'll use it. Is generally perceived as the music that Charlie Parker played and the music that Hank Mobley played, and it absolutely is that. But the thing that gets lost is that this music is a living, evolving, growing music. If you're playing, if all you're playing is the formula that Bird played, that's great. But that's not where the music is now. The music is over here somewhere. All right? And because it's moving, it's growing. One of the things I really love about this music is it's inclusive. It brings everything in.
Yeah.
So it's one of the reasons why, and a lot of people get on this case, and I'm not going to say rightfully so, but because it's not rightfully so. And that's Robert Glasper. A lot of people get on Glasper's case. Oh, that ain't jazz. That ain't. I'm sorry, it kind of is. It kind of is.
Yeah.
And the reason why it kind of is because he's continued this this idea of being inclusive and adding all the elements of what's going on in society into the music. That's what happened then. With bringing in all the things that are part of what's going on at the time into the music.
I think what it is at the same time we want to preserve the music of Bird and Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing is it's going through that process of, studying the history, studying where the music came from, so that when you add your stamp onto it, you're not forgetting what happened in the past. You realize that you're part of the lineage and you're a continuation of what happened in the past, which means you need to know what the heck happened in the past.
Yeah. What I see in young people, particularly, that my son, he's, and I, both my sons, is that, as a jazz cats, we actually go back. I went back. I still listen to Duke Ellington.
Of course.
I came up with hip hop. I'm the hip hop generation.
Yeah.
So I'm in that, and I'm listening. But I go back and I enjoy the whole spectrum of it, even this where it's going. I'm like, why do people limit themselves?
Exactly.
And just, I love it all. And so,
but see, here's the thing, though. I'm a little older than you, but not that much. When we grew up, there wasn't this kind of barrier between this and that. Mm-hmm. It was music. It's the same 12 notes.
Yeah.
It's the same 12 notes.
Yeah. No
right?
doubt.
So, and once you start to look at it that way and get beyond genre, I was listening to a thing the other day. Oh, I was listening to something Christian was saying. Christian has his show on XM radio,
Christian McBride.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he was talking, him and Diane Reeves were having a conversation. And he was saying that Diane Reeves was saying when she was coming up, she didn't even hear the word genre. That word didn't even exist.
Yeah.
In terms of as it applied to music. Mm-hmm. It was that there wasn't this thing of, there's this kind of music and that kind of music and that kind of music and that kind of music, and then they should never overlap.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
In fact, her first album that I heard was the Grandma song.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is more on the
right.
Yeah, R&B side, whatever. But yeah.
So it's getting back to the educational thing, it gets back to the challenge of education in the arts in general and music specifically is the reluctance of students to want to go back and see where this came from so that they can see where they fit in this timeline.
Yeah.
They don't want to go back to see what happened. Why did he play that?
Yeah.
Then. Why did he play that then? Because the reason why he played it then is pretty close to the reason why you're going to play whatever you play now.
Yeah.
But if you don't address the why question,
the
musically why question.
Yeah.
I
also think young people, particularly in underprivileged communities, they have to go see the music. Because it's not like what I like about hip hop is they sell hip hop culture. They don't just sell the music, they sell the clothing, the look, the lingo, and that all creates the whole persona.
Yeah.
And I look at jazz and I see that, we gotta just get it from just being music. It's also the same thing as hip hop, it's a culture. Mm-hmm. So I think young people gotta go out and see cats. See cats playing and the interaction, like you talk about between the musicians, and the expressions on people's face, and and so if we can get young people to experience the music, not just then they can appreciate on another level. Even stories, like I used to read about Charlie Parker, and I was fascinated about the stories that I read. Mm-hmm. That was all part of it.
Oh yeah. Well, the other thing is, and I was talking to some folks about this. I've talked to several folks about this. Is the fact that this music used to have characters. Characters.
Yes. Bobby said,
characters.
Yeah. Did you remember Don Dolman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And there's not as many characters.
You absolutely right. Yep. Yeah. But and that's all part of the.
That's all part of it.
Yeah,
it's all part of it.
Yeah, man. So
it's.
Yeah. Anyway, we got final questions. Man.
Okay.
I wanted to ask you, man. You've gone from. I've seen you having hair to bald.
Right.
Now you got your hair back. What made you? Did you just up one day say I'm gonna cut my hair off? And
Oh yeah,
really?
I remember when I was in New York. I was in New York. Look, if you look in my yearbook, my high school yearbook, I had a fro that was about this big.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had a fro about this big. Big dangling earring. You know, so, you know, we all.
Yeah,
Look, I done seen you too now.
Yeah. Oh, I used to have a shag.
How long ago?
No, this was high school.
Oh, okay, all right. Because I'm saying, I don't remember the shag.
No, this is before I got this is high school. They started teasing me. I had to cut that thing off.
Yeah. Did you have a mohawk at one time?
No, I never had a mohawk. I think I had a tail, but
okay.
Anyway, so you're around that area where you ready to retire.
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking forward to retirement?
Absolutely.
And you have any plans?
I'm hitting the road, bro.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to get out. I mean, I am my next project is I'm in the middle of writing some stuff for the band, my exploration band, with Janelle Gill and Michael.
Okay,
Bowie.
we didn't talk about that. You got your band now is exploration band.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Lenny Robinson's exploration.
Okay.
Janelle, Michael Bowie, Chris Barrett, and myself. And the whole concept of that band is we're exploring different areas. Like the last concert we did, I called it the music of Eminem, NM. Eminem, NM.
Okay.
Monk, Mingus, and Miles.
Love it.
All right. So you know that kind of thing where we you know we might kind of explore a composer. We might explore a concept. You know, we might explore an indigenous culture of music.
Wow.
You know, just different things. So I'm doing some writing for that, and that's going to be my next.
That's what's next?
That's what's next, yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. Final question.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look in the mirror and look in the look in the mirror. You can look in the camera.
I got you.
And tell people, how can they get in touch with you and learn about the things you're doing? How can people?
Okay. My website is the one that's actually mostly in use is Lenny'sLessons.com. And you can see kind of what I do. You can see my history. You can mainly see what I'm offering as lessons, as you know, musical concepts and lessons, primarily for drummers, but not necessarily. I have like different tracks on that website. Mm-hmm. You know, if you want to get better at reading, I've got you know things to address that. If you want to get better at being able to analyze some music so that you can better play it from a musical perspective as opposed to just a drumming perspective. Mm-hmm. You know, those kinds of things. Yeah. If you want to get in touch with me, just to talk or just shoot the breeze. Lenny'sLessons.com.
Cool. And you're also on social media?
Yeah. Lenny Robinson on Facebook and Robinson Lenny on Instagram.
Beautiful. Yes, sir.
So
man.
yeah, I'm out there.
Yeah. Well, my brother, man, it's been a pleasure chopping it up with you, man.
You too, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad we got a chance to do this. We've been talking about it for a minute.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And it's funny, man, because I always get to really learn some things I really didn't know, and so you starting to make sense to me. No, man, you got
so that means I got to do something else.
No, man, you have a great story, man, and you're one of the cats that you've done some things. People, you're very unassuming in a sense, but I was just doing just a little research, man. You've done some things. And so, man, congratulations.
I've been blessed, man. That's the reality.
No
I've been blessed because most of the things that have kind of come my way, I wasn't necessarily seeking them. I mean, not specifically that. I mean, of course, I'm seeking a career in what I'm, have been called to do. But I think the fact things have happened the way they've happened is kind of proof of the fact that, yeah, I'm supposed to do this.
No doubt. Yeah.
You know, stuff is just falling in my here. Here you go. Oh, here you go.
Yeah. Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Well, man, congratulations on all
you,
the
bro.
success, man, and we wish you the best.
And you too, man.
Thank you, man.
You too.
Appreciate you, man. And,
you know, I've been what I like about you is number one is just your gregarious kind of outgoing thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm me. I'm putting it
Yeah,
out there. You know, and I can play my horn. Don't forget. Don't forget.
But most people don't know, man. I'm really a loner.
Okay.
You know, but I can.
Well, we all are.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
those of us who like, because in order to do what we do, there's a certain amount of solitude we need to have and be comfortable with to be able to sit in the shed and do what we got to do to work it out.
My man. All right. Well, man, thanks again, man, for being on the conversation.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yes.
And, you know,
yes, sir.
much love and all that stuff and much success and continued success. And I'm looking forward to whatever your new thing is.
Yes, sir. Well, there it is.
There it is.
You've been listening to the wonderful drummer, Mr. Lenny Robinson. And this is a conversation in jazz. And we'll see you on the next one.